Hello, everybody. This is not your usual standard hooligan soccer podcast, as my illustrious co-host Gary Stryker is unavailable today, and yet I have more than made up for him with my guest, the one, the singular, Will Gittins. Will, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon. It's fantastic to be here for this MLS Cup week. How are you feeling, Qooligan?
I'm feeling just ducky. Thank you so much. No, it is the final game of the MLS postseason is upon us. It will be on Saturday. And well, I believe you understand how all of the people out there can watch this fantastic match, or what we think will be a fantastic match.
Do indeed. I mean, for much of the season, it's been pretty easy. It's Apple TV, and that's pretty much your only option. This weekend, it has broadened out to, I believe, anyone can watch it on Apple TV for free. And there's also Fox and Fox Deportes options for people who do not have access to the Apple side. And also anyone who is hanging around on a street corner in New York City might be able to catch it on the big screens in Times Square.
Well, here's what I have to say. For any of the hooligan soccer fanatics out there, please go to Times Square, take a selfie, and send it to us. As always, we love your feedback. You can write to us at hello@hooligan-soccer.com, as well as go to our website, hooligan-soccer.com, where we will be having all sorts of words and ramblings. So that said, let's just jump right in. We've got one game left. Inter Miami is taking on the Vancouver Whitecaps, two strong teams, both finished towards the top of the tables. No number one seed has made it all the way through this year. They toppled out early. Obviously, Vancouver defeated San Diego last weekend down in San Diego. And for some reason, Inter Miami, who despite being the lower seeded team, has managed to win the home rights, and they're playing in Miami. I don't quite understand how. And it kind of bothers me because it would have been awesome to have that game in Canada, but hey, what are you going to do?
Regular
it's
season
in Miami
points.
Instead.
Regular season points. I
that
quite
right?
like it.
Is
regular
that what
season
it was?
points is the decider for this, which does
Thank
feel
you.
strange.
Revelation. I had no idea. And believe it, I do my research, and yet I never realized that. Thank you.
You could quite easily have had a number one seed in the West not getting home advantage had they played someone else in the East, which would have been strange, would have been a bit weird, but it does at least go some way to balance out the difference in quality between the leagues, with maybe the East being a bit stronger this year, other leagues the other way around, other seasons the other way around, and it starts to average it out a bit. It is actually, I believe, the longest trip possible in MLS.
It is
Vancouver
that is correct.
to Miami trip. I mean, yeah, in terms of
3,426 miles, in case you were curious. See, I do some research.
You do. I'm glad you focused on the logistical side of things. I
didn't figure that one out. Well, I'm glad that there was a reason, and it wasn't because of some sort of strange Messi effect and or David Beckham pulling out some favors with all the MLS brass. So it goes on regular season points. That's what can I say? Because we all know that this industry, the entire soccer world, is completely and utterly devoid of any corruption whatsoever. It is an entirely meritorious system. More on that later. But anyway, we get back to the game. So Inter Miami's hosting. They're at home. I do think that this is going to give them a little bit of an edge. I mean, I think any home team obviously is going to have that big crowd behind them, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, the entire stadium is going to be a wash in pink, and all of that pink is going to say Messi on the back, or at least 95% of it, if you go by shirt sales. Do you think, and let's just start getting into the analysis, does Vancouver have any chance to dethrone or to topple the juggernaut that is Inter Miami, especially in this postseason?
Well, I think you can make a very, very convincing case that in 2025, the Vancouver Whitecaps have been the best MLS team. That's not just the best in MLS play, but in terms of finishing with, a club record amount of points, finishing second in the West, also winning the Canadian Championship, and also getting to the final of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, thrashing into Miami en route to that final, and really competing on multiple fronts in a way that basically no MLS team has ever done before. I think if you consider that level of performance across the season, and then you throw in the fact that down the stretch they added in Thomas Mueller, who's been incredible, to get that extra level of quality, and you have Brian White coming back from injury, you have Ryan Gold coming back from injury, and you've got this team on a real surge of momentum. That's a pretty daunting prospect for anyone who would come up against them in the final. And I think in pretty much any other situation, you would have had Vancouver as strong favourites, even on the road. Of course, Miami are a bit of a different proposition. The form they've shown in the postseason has been great.
Yeah.
Vancouver have a chance, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned there the home advantage point for Miami. It's true, having the stadium of fans in front behind them will obviously make a big difference. But I think the lack of away disadvantage for Miami is going to be just as key, because in a different world, they could have been traveling all the way to Vancouver, playing in freezing or very chilly conditions on an artificial surface. That suddenly looks like a very, very tricky task for them. They'll be at home, familiar conditions, familiar temperature, climate, all that kind of good stuff. I think that does definitely tilt the balance in Miami's favor.
I tend to agree with you, and let's talk about that shellacking that was back in April, because I look at that. There were two legs. This was, as you said, the CONCACAF Champions Cup. There were two legs. I believe it was the quarterfinals leg. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was a two-legged fixture. And I mean, to put it bluntly, Vancouver opened a can of whoop ass on Inter Miami, and at the time, Vancouver was strong, and they had started very strong in the MLS, but I don't think it had hit everybody's radar just how good they were going to be. Vancouver's never really been a team in the MLS that's done much. This is the farthest they've ever gotten the MLS playoffs. They've never been to a final before. They've been okay, but never transcendent, never brilliant. And this is their first season where they finally come out of their shell and said, "Hey, we can ball up in Vancouver, up in Canada. All right, BC got game." So I look at that, and it was what? It was a 2-0. They won 2-0 at home, and then 3-1 on the road in Miami. And so you look at, I don't think they're going into Miami saying, "Sure, this is a problem." I think they're going into Miami saying, "We did it once, we could do it again." Right. And the only thing they want to avoid is that, for lack of a better term, it was almost as if they got stage fright in that championship, in the Champions Cup final, right? When they were playing, I think they were playing Cruz Azul in that final, and they lost 4-0.
Chuka, maybe? Yeah, it was a comfortable
it was
loss.
I mean, and they didn't look the normal. It was, I do call it like stage fright. It's like they froze. They just were like, the moment caught up to them. That, I think, will help. That will help them as they go into Miami and hopefully feel a little bit more comfortable. And let's also look at the list of Miami's failures this season, right? So they had the opportunity to win a historic 5, maybe 6 trophies this year, and 5 of them have gone away, have dissipated. So this is it. This is their last chance to get a title.
It is, and that 5 trophies figure is thrown around quite a bit. I do think the Club World Cup they're not going to win, because they're not going to get past PSG, Chelsea, and that. So that you can kind of rule out.
Okay, right.
There's 4 left.
Yeah.
Had they have won any of the other 3, I don't think people would have really cared that much. If you win the Conca Champions back in May, it's okay, but it's kind of too early in the season for it really to be a fitting gauge of where your team is. Supporters Shield, they've won already. Leagues Cup, they've won already. And then you're left with MLS Cup, which is the one they want to win. I'm sure if you'd have asked the team hierarchy 2.5 years ago, when Messi arrived, they would have said that this is the one that will judge the success of the project. This is the one that they're really building to. And it's taken a little bit longer than we would have expected, maybe, but they're here, they're playing it, and they come into the game with real form.
So, but do you think that additional pressure will that cause a problem with Inter, right? Could Miami choke?
It's difficult to say. I mean, I can't see them choking in the sense of them not playing well on the big occasion. So I think they've got too many good players. They've got a good enough system now and a coach who's actually proved to be quite savvy tactically. They've got enough of the good stuff there to put in a performance. The one thing you'd maybe wonder about is the mentality of players when things aren't going well for them. We saw it in the League's Cup final against Seattle,
Right.
how there is such momentum behind the Miami project and so much, so much eyeballs on it, so much pressure, if you want to call it that when things don't go well, that pressure can sometimes crack. And we saw, there was the Suarez incident. I think Busquets was even getting involved with an altercation with other team players.
True.
And, you do have to think that is at least partially due to the strange situation of these elite players playing in a slightly lesser competition, that they get frustrated, they can be got at by other players in the opposition team. So I think that's something to consider. And yeah, obviously it's a one-off game, so it really comes down to individual moments. And you would, as we've said all the way through this postseason, regular season as well, you would back Miami to have enough quality players to produce those moments. But you are kind of rolling the dice.
Yeah. I look at Miami's run up until this game, which has been an amazing run. 19 goals scored, right? I mean, that's LA Galaxy had a historic run last year. And I believe they scored maybe one or two additional goals over. So they might have scored 20 goals on their way into the final, but that was because they just absolutely destroyed Colorado in the opening, right? I think we scored 9 goals in those 2 opening games, something absurd like that. But when you look at Miami, and I watched them play in the last game, they were magnificent. They were absolutely, their play was scintillating. Their passes were crisp. They were sharp. They were on the front foot the entire game. When they were up 3 goals, they didn't stop. They just kept on applying pressure, ratcheting up the pressure and getting it. But there's one thing that concerns me, and that is their insane reliance on 2 players.
2 players?
Maybe three. Yeah.
Go on.
Lionel
I guess
Messi,
one of them.
Lionel Messi and Tadeo Allende have 16 of those 19 goals and a significant number of those assists. There have only been 2 other players that have scored in the entire run of the playoffs, and that was Matteo Silvetti, who, by the way, brilliant, fantastic, the best replacement for Suarez that I've ever seen. I don't think Suarez touches the grass. He might come on as a substitute if they're ahead, but I think Silvetti starts. Why would you put Suarez in a game like this where you know he's volatile and you know he's going to do something dumb? You don't. If I'm Mascherano, I'm not starting Suarez. I'm like, Holmes, you're going to take a seat. I got a 19-year-old kid here who is brilliant, who wants it. Yeah, we're going to give it to him.
Yeah, I think he made the decision on that. The tough bit was taking Suarez out. Suarez essentially made the decision by getting himself suspended in an earlier round.
Very true.
So Betty's been put in. He's been great, and I think that's it. Yeah, I don't think there's any chance that Suarez comes in to start for the final. But yeah, I hear what you're saying about the form that Miami have shown on the way to the final, and it is dazzling. The goals and the fluency of some of the attacking moves they're putting together. I think Vancouver have been better in this run to the MLS Cup. I think that Vancouver, if you're looking for a replicable performances, things that they're doing well week in, week out. And if I just go through, so Miami needed 3 games to get past Nashville. They then put aside a very underperforming Cincinnati in that moment, a Cincinnati team that just kind of lost their heads in the moment, and an NYCFC team who finished 4th or 5th, I think, in the regular season, didn't have their main goal scorer.
That's right.
And were a fairly blunt force into Miami. Whereas on the other side, Vancouver beat Dallas in 2 games. They then beat LAFC and played extra time with only 10 men after Tristan
An amazing
Blackman
game, by the way. So much resilience shown by that Whitecaps team with 9 men on the field as the final whistle blew after 120 minutes. Unbelievable. Yeah,
exactly. Against a brilliant LAFC team, or certainly an LAFC team with the potential to be brilliant. And
I mean, it was pretty brilliant. It was pretty brilliant.
Yeah. And then in the conference final, swatted aside San Diego, made San Diego look like they didn't belong there, and that's the first time we've really seen that this season. So I think if you're looking at the last, 4 or 5 games, this playoff stretch over the last month and a half, I think Vancouver have the form, have the momentum going in.
I I like what you're saying. I mean, one, because I'm kind of I'm pulling for Vancouver. I'm not gonna lie. Totally pro Vancouver right here. And I think you are right. They've had a harder path, right? The road to the finals was much more difficult for them. And that's not to say that Miami have not shown outrageous superiority in
Highest
some of
highs.
in
The
some
highest
of them.
highs you're going to see in MLS,
Yes,
basically.
that is
Yeah.
correct. And they certainly have the potential to unleash that at any time, given that depth of talent that they have. And I do think I have some questions about Vancouver's resilience in the back, but they've conceded quite a few goals. They do concede goals. They also but at the same time, when they do concede, that's when they begin to congeal into a much more resilient unit. When they concede, they respond positively. When Inter Miami concedes, they fall apart. At least from what I've seen, right? That's a big difference between the two. Miami's defense isn't great either, and they've been a bit lucky in not conceding a lot of goals. Cincinnati had 2 very clear chances in that first half that had one of those gone in, I think it makes a very different game. And they just come out in the second half and just put it to bed. Fine. I think NYCFC, you mentioned they lost their main goal scorer to an ACL injury, and they weren't toothless in that game either. They had chances and came close. I think they even had a goal called back for offsides. And so these are razor edge margins, as most of these finals are. They're going to come down to these tiny little factors that, and so the big issue is what factors will play most on which team to determine who comes out. I don't think we've seen the best of Thomas Mueller yet in these playoffs, right? We saw him when Vancouver went on their run to win the Canadian Cup, right? He was wonderful. And I think Mueller has a good game. Historically, when Mueller plays Messi, the Mueller team wins most of the time. There have been 11 incidences when Thomas Mueller has taken the field against Lionel Messi. 7 of those were club matches, and 4 of those were international matches. And Mueller's team came out 8 over 3 times, including that incredible World Cup final. Now, Mueller didn't score, right? But he played the full 120 minutes. Messi had that sort of world famous shank of his in the second half, late into the second half, that could have sealed the deal, and he pulls it wide. It's something he makes probably 9 times out of 10, maybe even more than that, 19 out of 20. But he didn't do it on that occasion. Of course, we all know Götze scored right towards the end. Everything. Messi has to go up on stage and collect the golden boot right before they give the trophy to someone else. I mean,
the real one. Yeah.
Oh, it was terrible. But so I think Mueller is the X factor for Vancouver that hasn't come into play yet. And you're right, with Gauld back and Brian White back, it doesn't put all the pressure on him. So that gives him the freedom to just go and do his thing.
But just on Mueller, how fit do we think he's going to be? Because there's been talk of kind of muscle issues for the last couple of weeks. Obviously, he's an aging player. He'd also kind of gone through, it's the classic thing, he's gone through the European season, then also followed that up with Club World Cup, and then gone straight back into the most high intensity part of the MLS season. Aging player. I think in the San Diego game, he only played an hour. Now, they were 3-0 up by the time he came off. So you can say, well, it makes sense. He's an older player, take him off and rest his legs. But you think, if he's 100%, you probably give him 75. It did seem a little bit premature to take him off on the hour mark. And you do wonder whether or not they are very aware of something underlying that might just be, might be a factor when it comes to Saturday's game.
That's an interesting speculation. I haven't heard anything or read anything about him. And I mean, interestingly about Mueller, his injury history is pretty thin. I mean, that guy um, he is a hale and healthy older player. I mean, let's be, because like you say, he is older, but boy, he doesn't get injured often. And
No, and he's not reliant on explosive pace or anything.
No.
He's not one who's likely to snap something in a warm up.
I agree. He's just what I like to call the savvy operator. He stands, he moves, his positioning is good, and he just has that ability to hit these impossible shots, right? In a way, he's very similar to Suarez. In the fact that both of them have the ability to finish in an absolute eye blink. You turn off for a nanosecond, and all of a sudden they're past you. Their toe is poked out, and the ball's in the net. And you have no idea what happened. That's what Mueller brings. And to Vancouver's credit, they do get Tristan Blackman back. He was serving a suspension against San Diego, and that's a big plus for them, especially when it comes to blunting that sharp attack that Miami has. I think Blackman is going to be critical to keeping Miami off balance on their attack and not allow them to play that flowing, brilliant, quick pass game that they were able to do against Cincinnati, against NYC.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Vancouver is the toughest test that Inter Miami will face in the offseason, and it's a brilliant, fitting MLS Cup matchup.
I couldn't agree more. So here's the big question. Who's going to win? Do you have a prediction?
I do. I think there's going to be goals. I'll start off by saying that obviously it's a final, so it will be entertaining. There will be tension. There will be excitement. There will be thrills, spills, the whole lot. There will be goals. These are both teams that look to impose their own way of playing. These are both teams that are front foot in very different ways. Miami is much more possession-based. Vancouver much more of a sort of a high-pressing, slightly more direct style of passing. But yeah, both teams are going to play on the front foot with elite quality attackers in form. So there's going to be plenty of goals. It is that thing that we say every week when we're talking about a team that comes up against Inter Miami. Are you going to score 3 goals? Because they're going to score 2. So take that as your baseline. If you want to win this game, you've got to be looking at 2+ goals for this. So I think we're looking at a 3-2 or something in that kind of ballpark. I do think that the fact that Miami were at home, the fact that there feels to be a momentum behind them, the fact that their key players are in form, and that they're now finally getting goals from elsewhere in the team as well as Messi, I think that's enough for me to lean into Miami. 3-2.
Oh, good analysis. I'm going to go with it. I actually think it's going to go to extra time. I think there's going to be, I agree with you, there's going to be goals. And I think it's going to be 2-2 at the end of regulation. And then I think in that extra time, there's going to be a last-minute winner. Now, I'm going with Vancouver on that one. So I'm going to be going 3-2 on Vancouver's side. But I'm also admitting it could equally go into PKs. And if it does, I'm going to give the slight edge to Vancouver on that, right? If it does end up going to kicks from the mark, I'm going to give the edge. Messi has a really interesting history of missing PKs in big moments, right? And I'm not just saying it all relies on him, but Vancouver is very solid. They've already won 2 shootouts with a good resilience, and Takaoka is a very good goalkeeper when it comes to these types of when it comes to stopping shots. He also, interestingly, has an assist in the postseason, which is unusual for goalkeepers. And so he might even get another assist here. Who knows? Miami sometimes can get beat on that long run, and he has a hell of a drop kick. So watch out, folks. All right.
So what is the prediction? Are we saying extra time? Are we saying penalties?
I'm going extra time. I'm speculating on what would happen if it goes to kick from the mark. But my prediction, thank you for keeping me honest, is going to be 3-2 for Vancouver in extra time. That's where I'm going.
Yeah, goals.
And whichever way you look. But goals. Either way, you're right.
Yeah.
Goals.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be goals, right? It's got to be goals, and I think everybody wants that. Certainly, all the sponsors want that, and I think the fans are going to want it too.
And I think predictions aside, I think whoever comes out on top, I think we can look at them as a deserving winner of MLS Cup this year. I think that both of these teams have been great. I don't think we're going to see either of these teams languishing at the bottom of their conference next season, like we have done in some previous years. These are two really quality teams with great players, great systems, and I think it's going to be a pleasure to watch them playing at the end of the season this weekend.
And it'll be a first-time winner, which is also something that's just also something that the league likes and the fans like. It will be a first-time winner regardless. And you're correct; both teams deserve a win. Right. It's not as if like you said, no, this isn't some weird offshoot, just having a superior run, coming in off some lucky strikes. No, two deserving teams who have earned this chance. And I just hope they give us a great game. Great game.
Can't wait.
Okay.
Can't wait.
Neither can I. So, Will, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a short one today because it's only one game that we're talking about, and there's only so much we can do. So, as before, please like, follow, subscribe to the podcast. Come on by hooligan-soccer.com/podcasts and check out some of our partner podcasts as well. Some outstanding ones out there. And whatever you do, enjoy the game responsibly. And by responsibly, we mean whatever you feel is comfortable. And so, for lack of anything else, on behalf of Gary Stryker, who couldn't make it today, Will Gittins, thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right. And we will see you next time. Peace.